financial stability that you feel you need to live the lifestyle that you want. It's very smart for people who are going with $20 to $50 to $100,000 or who already have a good job. Make sure that stuff is secure and set up before you go, because you don't want to ever feel like you can end up homeless or different things like that. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is I would definitely try to look into see what type of new programs has Kenya made any progress like Ghana has on letting us come back. You know, I think I want to look a little deeper, or maybe I would maybe even choose Ghana over Kenya because they're friendlier when it comes to trying to get people to come home, you know? So that would be something that I would have looked into a little more, that what I need to do to make sure that I can become a resident, make sure I have the money to become a resident, make sure that you go through all the constitutions and different classes of everything, the Kenyan laws, basically, so that you know how to protect yourself in any event that, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And what else would I have done different? That's pretty much was the main thing. I would have just made sure I was more financially secure. Everything else I did in Kenya, I had a wonderful time. I was all over the place doing things, and, you know, my friends, you know, took me out. And I think I lived pretty well, you know, for my experience. Oh, also, okay, yeah, I would have been more careful about, and I think we talked about this last time. I'm a bit too nice.
Too nice.
So, yes, I'm too nice. And sometimes you can get taken advantage of because of that. Like anywhere in the world, you can be taken advantage of because you're too nice. It's just not there. But I have had money stolen from me. I've lost thousands of dollars. I have had some situations of trying to do business when I should have been more assertive. I should have made sure that everything was in place or had proper lawyers, just different avenues to protect yourself. So when you're doing business, buying land, things like that, you just know, or you have some friends that you can refer to that can help you, guide you in the right direction. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Restaurants, and I expected, you know, that freedom. It was like a freedom feeling, you know, to be free for the first time in my life officially. Like no one, you walk past people and they just see you as a person and not a color, basically. That was the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. And my goal, and always has been my goal, is to encourage as many African Americans and as many people that want to go abroad to follow that dream, stick with that goal, and start making the process. Not everyone can afford it, or at least they say they can't afford it, but I always like to be the ray of hope to tell people I did it with $1,500, which is not smart.
Wow.
But I'm a hustler and I'm a survivor, and I made it work. There's African American people that I'm talking to right now that are saying, oh, I'm going with $20,000. I'm going with $50,000. Well, great, because that means you're going to be able to establish yourself the right way, and your life will be so much easier. Yes, and be humble and respectful, because you're stepping into somebody else's life and culture. Okay, you're the outsider looking in. So to go there, I mean, I couldn't come there with being so mean to people, because then I'm like, people are gonna want to hurt you if you're being too aggressive and thinking that, you know, you're all that. And I'm like, no, I just want to blend in with everybody. And I did until I talk, you know, but I just keep it humble, you know, just keep it humble, and you handle people based on their character in each situation.
Okay, so you see now many African Americans are leaving USA and they're moving to Kenya. Kenya is becoming the new trend. I don't know after Kenya it will be which country, but I kind of noticed something, you know, with the videos I've been doing, with the live stream I've been doing. I was asking African Americans, how much do you need to survive in Africa? Like, what's the bare minimum you need while moving to Africa? people had different perspectives. People had different opinions. Some people were saying you need, if you are coming for a vacation, of course, apart from the air ticket, you need like $100. That's the bare minimum per day. $100 per day in Africa is a lot of money. Even the average person does not spend like that, you know. But if you are coming to stay, you need like $2,000 in a single month. You need like $2,000. And this $2,000 is something that is requested not by you, it is requested by the government of Kenya. That is when you are required, when you are applying for residency. You need to show them like you can earn at least $2,000 in a single month, so that you can't go broke in Africa and start begging. That is what they fear most. But I will tell you this, amount of money should not distract you, amount of money should not keep you from moving to Africa. Because if you really want to move to somewhere, if you really want to go somewhere, nothing will stop you. Money won't stop you. At least let it not be money that is stopping you. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I've heard of exceptions, I have listened to exceptions, I have read exceptions of African Americans who came to Kenya. They were taking a lot of risks. They took a lot of risks while moving to the country of Kenya, and right now they are learning that indeed what they did was more serious. They should have taken a different approach. Now is when they are learning, you know. Moving to Africa is not a mistake if you don't have enough money. Moving to Africa might be a lesson if you don't have enough money. I think sometimes mistakes are lessons. That is how I think of it recently. Now, this African woman, this African sister came to Africa with only $1,500. Back then the US dollar was at 100 Kenya shillings. So she had like 150,000 Kenya shillings. That is enough to pay your rent only. For a one bedroom in most houses here in Kenya, that is enough to pay your room for 10 months. 10 months, but she didn't listen to nothing. She came because her mother was already living here. So she just came with 1,500. Her mother was coming to host her. That is also another thing we need to consider. But her story is very unique. There's something very unique with her story, and the mistakes she did, and what you can learn from them. Because right now the sister is, at the time of recording this video, the sister is not living in Kenya. She left Kenya and moved back to the United States of America. But why did she move back to the United States of America? Why are Africans, American, are very thrilled of moving to Africa, but then when they move here, they go back? It's because there's something wrong. There's something wrong, and we want to identify what is wrong. And this sister is going to help us, you know. In fact, coming to Africa itself, moving to Africa, is a risk by itself. And if you can be able to just think of moving here, you've already made a huge step towards your move to identifying your identity and where you come from. That is what I understand. So what we need to do is, what we need to understand is we have the heritage and identity. One of the things to expect and one of the things you need to adjust to is the heritage, and you need to have some sense of identity. One thing, another thing also is language and communication. Another thing is healthcare systems. Another thing is educational opportunities. Another thing which is really important, remember the sister came with only $1,500. It can't last forever. Another thing is employment and economic landscape. Another thing is building community ties. Another thing is navigating social dynamics. Another thing is visa and residency requirement. Another thing, which is the second last one, is called civic engagement. The 10th one is coping with homesickness, because when you move to a place, it happens to me also. Even when I move to Mombasa, I get sick of my home. I get sick of seeing my mom. I wanna see them. I wanna see my siblings, everyone that I value. So it's something which happens. I've just given you a detail of the things I noticed from this video. Let's watch this video, then I'll give you my perspective as per what I think should be done by African Americans, and then we are also going to expound on these matters.
No, I had never been to any other African country before that, but I did research pretty much every country, and I weighed my options of where I wanted to go, such as the currency and the money and how far is it going to go. I looked at the housing market, like how much, okay, if I pay $200 a month for this, I know this is pretty nice. I can get that, you know. I looked at the areas, how far was it away from the bigger cities. I looked at the transportation. I looked at the cost of food. I looked at the whole big picture. And then when it came to like finding housing, within, I would say the first 2 days of being in Kenya, we had a brand new apartment that nobody had ever lived in. It was a brand new building, secure.
Wow.
You know, so that I did do my research. I did every little detail that I thought would impact our lives. But of course, you always forget something. There's always these surprises, like bringing your appliances or your hair blow dryer. I mean, I've blown up 2 hair dryers. I've blown up, I think, a curling iron too, or something. A few things I brought from the U.S. blew up, is all I can say, because of the shortage in the wall. I don't know how to explain it, but there's something different about the voltage in appliances that you bring from the U.S. You have to get your appliances from Europe or China, because they won't work. They're not compatible unless you have the proper converters, step downs, things of that nature. So those are the research things that you can kind of not expect, but you figure it out because you want to be there.
Okay. And which state are you from in the U.S.?
I am from California. I was born in Compton, LA.
Oh, awesome. And how was the feeling when you first landed to Kenya? Was it what you expected it to be?
Yes, and more. It was like, I did kind of expect it to be not so, what's the word I'm looking for? Fancy. I didn't expect it to be like this high-end New York City type place. I expected it to feel like Africa. I expected it to have that authentic feel, the smell of spice, you know, spices in places when you walk by, you know, restaurants. And I expected, you know, that freedom. It was like a freedom feeling, you know, to be free for the first time in my life officially. Like, no one, you walk past people and they just see you as a person and not a color, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. And my goal, and always has been my goal, is to encourage as many African Americans and as many people that want to go abroad to follow that dream, stick with that goal, and start making the process. Not everyone can afford it, or at least they say they can't afford it, but I always like to be the ray of hope to tell people I did it with $1,500, which is not smart.
Wow.
But I'm a hustler and I'm a survivor, and I made it work. There's African American people that I'm talking to right now that are saying, oh, I'm going with $20,000. I'm going with $50,000. Well, great, because that means you're going to be able to establish yourself the right way and your life will be so much easier.
Mm-hmm. But let's start first. When you were first coming to Kenya, what inspired you to come to Kenya?
Sorry, there's like a giant bee right there. What had inspired me to come to Kenya originally was, as I said in the first interview, is like I started having dreams. I was very ill. I was, you know, working 3 jobs, going to school. I got burnt out really quickly, and I just felt like I didn't have a purpose or reason to live anymore. I know that's a sad thing to say, but that's where I was at that point in time in my life. So I talked to my mom about it, and she said, well, you know what, let's go to Kenya. We have connections to Kenya. And it just manifested itself within 1 year. No matter what we had, we just like, we're out of here, and our intention was to not come back, but it's not always that easy because life happens.
Mm-hmm. So you landed to Kenya. Tell us about your experience, because you mentioned last time that you landed in Nairobi, you changed neighborhoods, you went to Nyeri, you did some business. Tell us about it.
Well, from the time I got in Nairobi, we were living in a place called Raqqa, which is a very nice town, like maybe 10 minutes from the U.S. Embassy, the UN. So the area is really nice. The biggest mall of East Africa, 2 Rivers, was being built. So the area was just perfect for us. And then from there, we moved to a place called Kikuyu Town. Kikuyu Town is where I decided to do business because when I walked into the supermarket, I got mad when I couldn't find a cake that I really, thought was delicious and fresh. So I went home and I baked some cupcakes and I started giving them to everyone in my building. And they were like, "Are you serious? Like, you need to be selling these in the streets." So I did that for a while. And that's how I got my first, business going in Kenya, was selling cupcakes. That spilled over into Nyeri town because we moved from Kikuyu to Nyeri. My mom wanted to live out more in the countryside and just be a little more chill, laid back lifestyle. And I also pursued that business there. I got a lot of recognition. The video that you've seen of me, the Nyeri American, in the streets of Nyeri, that video is what, made people know who I am, my history, and why I came to Kenya.
Yeah, I think we saw the video. Yeah. I think we saw the video of an African American lady who was hawking. Like, hawking is not one of the jobs that anybody, like, lots of people don't like that. It's a kind of job that maybe a lot of people look down on. How did you feel doing it yourself?
At first, it was a little scary because I didn't speak Swahili at all. So I'm walking up to people are looking at me, they're wondering if I'm doing something weird because I'm offering them free samples. They're like, "Why are you giving us something for free? Who are you? What?" So it was a little scary, but then once people got to see me every day and they saw that I was committed to the hustle, as they started to love it, I started to love it. Even though I wasn't making much money at it, I was just maybe making enough to get like supplies and make $10 extra or 1,000 shillings extra. But it was just dealing with the people, the businesses. I started dealing with the county governments, the MPs, the police chief. All those people I was taking cupcakes to for their tea time in the morning. They were looking for me. So, it became like just a thing that it gave me something to do until I could figure out which way to go. So that was, kind of that experience. From there, I went off to Mombasa Diani Beach, which is absolutely beautiful and amazing. My best way to compare it is like maybe to the Bahamas, I guess. The water is so beautiful and, clean, and it's just a wonderful, Diani is just the best. It's been rated 2 years in a row #1 beach in Africa, maybe 3 years now. So I was in Diani.
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah, five.
5. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it deserves it because it's such an amazing place. I did some beach resort management down there. I did some hotel holiday bookings, and took care of some properties, did some property management. And so that was pretty much my whole span of all the things that I've dibbled and dabbed in Kenya. And so I guess that it was just basically me living off of myself as an entrepreneur. Some people are blessed enough to go to Kenya and be like, "Oh, I'm going straight to a teaching job. I'm going straight to some type of industry," or they're in the military. But I would say I'm a expat thug because I kind of went there and I'm just going to do whatever it takes to show people that I don't care how much money you have. If you really want to be somewhere, you will make a way. You will find a way to survive.
Awesome. And now that basically was your 3 years experience in Kenya. At what time did it get that you decided that you're going back to the US?
When, unfortunately, it got hard for me. I guess it would have been the year of 2018. I was sick in January after the busy season. I had got malaria. I was sick for a long time. And then a couple of months after that, my apartment was broken into and got robbed. So I lost my computers and my stuff and, you know, things like that. I wasn't making a lot of money. It wasn't busy season. So I had to just come to terms that I needed to go home to take care of some things, you know, and then also it just, my family was complaining a lot, you know, like, when are you coming back? And I needed to see them. I needed to handle business. I needed to finish my college degree. I was struggling at that point in Kenya. It didn't seem like I was growing as much as I wanted to. Partly, I think now that I think back on it, it was my fault because I wasn't, you know, doing the social media or showing my experience like I was supposed to. I was scared to show my experience. I thought maybe people would basically bully me like they did you. Or they say I'm a liar, or I was scared, you know, but now I've grown. I don't care anymore. I'm ready to share my stories, and the good and the bad stories. It's not that I'm talking bad about anybody or their culture, but this is what I went through with them in the process. So people need to, you know.
Do you think that you will ever come back to Kenya?
Absolutely. I have a 4-year goal. I'm 36 right now. So by the time I'm 40, I plan to permanently come back to Kenya. So I'm trying to work, do business, set up everything I need to set up, so I can work, you know, remotely, and be able to do business and, you know, sustain myself better than what I did before. But I have a feeling when I come back this time, because the African Americans that are going there, they already know what businesses they're going to do. So they're like, you know what, we would love for you to come work with us. You know, so I know that I'll be fine. I never looked to come to Kenya to become rich or all that. It was just to live comfortably and be okay and be safe. Live in a safe place where you have good security, because, you know, that's important for everybody. If you can, you know, so yes, I will be back. My mother is there right now. So I will always be coming back.
So you've just heard for yourself, the young sister was selling cakes. She was hawking in the streets of Kenya, Nairobi, Nyeri. Nyeri is a town in the central part of Kenya. That is what happens when you don't do the following I'm about to tell you. So the first thing that I noticed is this: underestimating the cost of living. A lot of African Americans underestimate the cost of living in Africa. Yes, the cost of living in Africa is way cheaper as compared to the United States of America. But it's not cheap as we might think of it. It's costly. In the long run, it's costly, you know, if you don't plan well. So one thing you need to know is this: failing to thoroughly research and understand the actual cost of living in the new location you are looking to live, including the housing, including the transportation, and the everyday expenses, can get out of hand, you know. The good thing with the sister is, with the money she had, she invested in a business, and this business gave her some returns, and it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. So this is the first mistake African Americans do: underestimating the cost of living in Africa. Okay, the second one is not budgeting for currency fluctuation. The US dollar is always, the Kenyan shilling is nothing against the US dollar. It's 150, it's times 150. Right now it's close to times 160, you know, against the US dollar. So one time you might be coming with your damn dollars, the Kenyan revenue might be at 150. The next day it might fall even up to half. If these things happens, currencies always fluctuate. So you always need to remember this. And I'm always telling people, don't save your money in Kenya shillings as an African American moving to Kenya or moving to Africa. don't save your money in the African revenue. It's weak against the US dollar. Save your money in the US dollar. They'll never beat the US dollar. But if you save your money in Kenya shillings, for this case, you'll surely run into losses, you know. So overlooking the potential impact of currency exchange rate fluctuation on income and expenses, this can affect the purchasing power of an African American. If you don't have the purchasing power, you are leading to that highway of poverty, a highway that it's not good leaving America, coming to Africa and living in poverty. It ain't good at all. Another thing the system might have done is neglecting emergency funds. Neglecting emergency funds. So, not establishing or maintaining an emergency fund for unexpected expenses such as healthcare emergencies or sudden changes in employment, you know. Don't come to Africa looking for a job. This is another thing. Be the job, create the job, but don't come here looking for a job. We don't have jobs. A lot of us don't have jobs. So actually many of us just are going back to where you came from, in the name of looking for work. Now that is something that needs to be done. Saving. So this neglecting emergency funds is like, you need to do some savings, you know. You need to do some savings. The fourth one is mismanaging banking and financial accounts. It happens. So not setting up local bank account or not being aware of international transaction fees lead to unnecessary charges. The good thing is we have the SWIFT system. The SWIFT system really helps with money exchanges within countries of different continents. The SWIFT system, you can be able to transfer money from different parts of the country. And in Kenya, foreign accounts are not taxed. Revenue earned from foreign accounts are not taxed. So that is a giveaway I'm giving to you. That is something you should know. The fifth one is the lack of tax planning. Kenyans are very, very redundant on taxations. Kenyans are very, very redundant on taxations, you know. So, in fact, the president who is leading right now, the President William Ruto, he's very tough and very high on taxations. So taxations is one thing that African Americans are going to face, you know. The sixth one is overlooking insurance needs. You shouldn't overlook insurance needs when moving to Africa. You know, neglecting to secure appropriate insurance coverage such as health insurance or property insurance, leaving oneself vulnerable to financial risks. You should give an eye to such things, you know. And the seventh one is ignoring retirement planning. Hey, do not ignore your retirement planning. Do not ignore that, because in retirement is what is going to really help you when you have nowhere to go. Retirement planning, you know. So not considering the implication of the move on retirement savings and failing to explore options for continued contribution to transfers or continued contribution or transfers, sorry for that. Now the point here is do something on your retirement so that when you get here you can be able to get paid during your retirement here in Africa, you know. Sometimes you are elderly and you can't work as you used to when you are young. So retirements can come in handy. Those who have served in the military, you know, they retire young. I was told that. So retirement planning is something that helps this category of people, you know. You don't take it easy when moving to Africa. It really, really means a lot. It really, really means a lot. So another thing is misjudging investment strategies. Misjudging investment strategies. The sister, she did her investment in the cake business. Even she was put on the news. You know, you've seen for yourself, you know. So making investment decision without a clear understanding of the local markets and economic condition is something that is worrying. You see, she told us that she was not getting nothing. For a very long time, she was not getting nothing until the point when she decided, no, I'm calling it quits. I'm moving back to my mother, to where I came from, which is USA. And it's really saddening for me to see how much someone has spent on fare, how much suffering someone has had in the USA, only to come to Africa and then face what we've just seen. It's sad. It's not a good thing to hear, but we need to hear this so that we can also learn and not commit the same mistakes. You know, I told you they are not mistakes. These are lessons. They are not mistakes. The 10th one is disregarding cultural financial practices. Do not regard Kenyan financial cultural practices. You know, ignoring or misunderstanding local financial customs and practices which can impact day-to-day financial transaction and interaction. If Kenya, we have 47 tribes. There's that thing which we do. We engage ourselves in circles. Circles help us because circles give us up to 300% of our earnings, which is really good. Say I place $1,000, I have saved like $1,000 in this circle. I can borrow up to 300,000 Kenya shillings, which is equivalent to, okay, let's say I put 1,000 US dollars. I can borrow up to 3,000 US dollars, which is really good. You know, this is something that has really helped Kenyans. Kenyans are building things through circles. They are connecting these matatus. They are buying the matatus, the transport sector. They are building homes, the real estate, using these circles. And it's really good. They're even buying cars using these circles. But I always not recommend buying a car using a hire purchase or loan. It has some problems also. If you're looking to buy a car, if you can, please go for the cash. If you can, please go for the cash. Hire purchase is hectic and there's a lot of headache. Things might happen in the middle of you paying the car or you paying the house. It does not have to be the car only, anything. If you can, always avoid bank loans. But circles are not like banks. Circles are different. Yes. So these are some of the things I have noticed that sister has been doing or African Americans might do and might affect their stay in Africa. Unless we have a question, I think we'll have to end here. And kindly subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 40,000. Let's spread the news to more African Americans and to more brothers and sisters who wants to come back to the continent. Yeah. So let's meet next time in the next video. Support me on Patreon. If you love my work, support me on Patreon. Let's meet and thank you.